How are y'all doing today? Welcome back to the Professional Dependa. I am Mike, and today we are going over some sewing stuff. I had mentioned in the first video, my first video back, whenever with that incredibly long and not phenomenal video about sewing the pillowcase, that we were going to do another sewing video. Then I did my 3D printing video in between because it's spooky season and I was printing something for Halloween, so it seemed like a good idea. So what we've got today, pajama pants. I honestly put this off a little bit because it was a little intimidating, and then as I've been looking at it, it really should not be intimidating at all. But I have said that about other things before and been way wrong. So what we're going to do is we're going to make pajama pants. We're going to go over the pattern. I'm not going to get too in detail about how to read the pattern. There's another creator, Tot Customs. He's got a phenomenal YouTube channel about a lot of beginner sewing stuff. I'm going to link that video below. Go check out his channel for that. It's going to be the actual one where he goes over how to read a pattern. I think he does it for a shirt, but the exact same concepts can be applied to this. This, looking at it, should be a very easy thing to do. It doesn't, I mean, it is called simplicity. So we're going to get into that. Funny story, my wife has already said that if this works out okay, that I'm going to make Christmas pajamas for us, because she likes to do the whole matching Christmas pajama thing. And I've also been doing some vinyl cutting and working with heat transfer vinyl. So she's already said that if the pajama pants work out, then we're going to get shirts to match, and I'm going to put vinyl, heat transfer vinyl on the shirts that match. So the joys of doing craft stuff and being creative and learning new skills, your wife will find a way to exploit you. Just kidding, somewhat. I really enjoy doing this stuff. So without further ado, let's get into that. Okay, so a couple things that I am going to point out. Whenever you open up your pattern, you know, it comes in this, and then you open it up, and it is going to be on this really thin, very brittle paper. And if you remember in the last video, I said one option you had to make a pattern. Now, for this one, I am going to end up making a pattern because this is something I'm going to want to replicate if it works out the way I want it to. So I highly suggest getting this fabric. I think it's just a tracing fabric. I don't know, you can go to your craft store and you can find it. This is going to be a little bit denser, but you can lay it down on top of the pattern of the design and you can trace it. This is going to hold up a little bit better, and it's going to give you the ability to replicate it later instead of cutting out this. So this, I can now, once I trace out my design onto here, I can then put this back into the thing, into the container, package, whatever, and come back and use it again later if I want to do another size, because this is all the sizes. I only need to make one for me, and because of the way all this is on here, it can get confusing if you're just looking at it. So I'm going to get my pattern, and this is it unfolded, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, there's lots of little, I don't even know if you can see it on here, just because of the way the light is in the room. Have your pattern laid out, you can see all these different little markings, all the different sizes that are on here, and it tells you what everything means. It also tells you that this is the front and back, and it has all this stuff, all this information written on there. Also inside your pattern, you're going to have the instructions, and it's going to explain to you what all the different lines and notches mean, and all the different symbols mean. And it's going to give you all the instructions on how to do it, all the way down to how to sew in your elastic. So I'm going to explain how to go through this the best I can. Again, check out the link down below for the video for Tot Customs. He does a phenomenal job. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try to stop saying so much. However, the instructions can look intimidating, so the best thing to do is to slow down, take your time. That's also a good thing about doing the tracing with the other paper, is that if you make a mistake, it doesn't ruin what you're doing, and it gives you a little bit of margin for error. So I'm going to go over this the best I can. I'm going to trace this stuff out to my size. I'm a big dude, so this is going to take a lot of tracing, but we're going to do the best we can, and let's find out what happens. Okay, so I've got my pattern laid out for the size that I need, and I have my tracing paper over the top of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a Sharpie, and I'm going to go around making sure that I get all the little extra notches and all the little symbols transferred over onto this. And then I'm going to label this, that way I can come back to it later. Now once it's traced and labeled, I'm going to go through with my rotary cutting wheel, and I'm going to cut off all of the excess tracing paper so then I'll have my pattern. Once I trace it, I'm going to take out the pattern that's underneath it because, again, I want to save that the way I can trace another pattern later. But this is what I'm going to do to start. Again, very simple. Just make sure you take your time, follow the lines. You can see it easily through the paper. You just got to apply a little bit of pressure. They do make this in thinner paper. I probably should have got that, but you know, things. So I'm going to go around, trace that, make sure I get all the little notches. And if there's anything that looks super important, like this line that's right here, I'm going to make sure that I trace that as well. So anyway, I don't think I need to see me trace, so I'll get back to you in a second. All right, so now we have everything traced over onto the paper. I've got all the little notches traced. I've got any of the other identifying marks from the pattern traced over on here, including where the crotch line is, center back seam, front back seam, and down here at the bottom it tells you how big to make the hem. So I've got all that transferred over. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the actual pattern, fold it back up, put it away, and then I'm going to cut this out using my rotary cutting wheel. I made a slight mistake. Not really a mistake, just something that you may not want to replicate that I just did. So yes, tracing on here is a phenomenal idea, but maybe just use a pen or have something under your fabric. And here you can see my Sharpie bled through the fabric, bled through the pattern onto my cutting board, or onto my cutting mat here. So yeah. Now at the end of the day, it's really not that big a deal because chances are I can use some rubbing alcohol and that'll come right off. But if you don't want to deal with it, maybe, just maybe, have something underneath your pattern if you're going to trace it. Tip for the day. Okay, so we've got this all cut out, got our fabric ironed. I'm going to do something a little bit different than I don't normally do whenever I'm working with a pattern. Like I don't do this for my bandanas, but because I don't have enough cutting surface to just lay this flat and cut it all at once, I'm actually going to pin my fabric to the pattern. That way I can move this back and forth to make sure I'm only cutting on top of my cutting mat and not on top of the table itself. It's going to protect my rotary cutting wheel. It's going to protect my table. So I'm going to pin this to the fabric so I can move it around and my fabric won't shift, or my pattern won't shift, and then I don't end up with like really jagged lines and something that's not going to work for what we're looking for. So I've got my pins. So I'm going to go around and we'll pin this. Then I'm going to go around it with the rotary cutting wheel and we're going to cut the fabric out. Okay, so I've got all my pins, and you don't need a bunch. I basically did one at everywhere there was a corner, and I did one about halfway down this really long stretch right here on either side. So now what I'm going to do, got my rotary cutting wheel, got my straight edge, my ruler. So now I'm just going to go around and I'm going to cut the outside. Once I cut the outside, then we're going to go back in all these places where there's notches. We're going to snip those out with the scissors. That way we know where they are, and that's also what the instructions said to do. So that's what we're going to roll with. And as you see, this is already working out well because I can move this and this wrinkles up, but everything stays in place. So this is going to work out, hopefully, the way I think it is. So we have our pattern cut. I also have my fabric picked out. Now I got to show y'all this fabric. I'm making these pajama pants strictly because it's spooky season and I really like Halloween. But check out this fabric. Again, here's the pattern all laid out, all cut out. The cut 2 is to signify that I have to cut out 2 of this design. Now, I'm not the best tracer. I probably should have gone over with a ruler, but I didn't. Funny thing is, I didn't want to get marker on my ruler, so I didn't use my ruler. Tried to freehand it, and ended up getting marker on everything else. Live and learn, right? Anyway, so I've got this all labeled, got everything laid out, but here, check out this fabric. How sick is this? I love just all the different colors and how some of the blacks are darker than the other blacks, and I love everything about it. And what you're going to do, so we've got to cut out 2 of these, cut 2. So I've got to cut 2 of these. This is your grain line. So you want to make sure that whenever you lay this out, that you lay it this way. That way, whenever you cut it, the faces aren't going like that or like that, unless that's just how you want it. But if you want it to look regular, then lay it out like that. And then I think these are going to look super awesome. This fabric, I've already washed this fabric. I'm going to iron it and get it laid out, get this on top of it, and start cutting. Okay, so I've got both pieces of fabric cut. I've transferred all of my notches, whatever you want to call them, from the pattern to the fabric. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this, I'm going to take my pattern, I'm going to fold it up, and I'm going to put it into an envelope with the actual instructions. That way, whenever I want to make the same design with a different print, I've already got this cut, and I don't have to go through the whole issue of getting it recut. All right, so you'll notice different outfit. I had to continue on to a second day because my daughters wanted to do a spa day, and I ended up dyeing their hair because they're out for fall break, and so both of my kids have green hair for a week. They're only young ones, right? Anyway, so we have one of the pants legs, and we have it pinned. The instructions say to start with the inseam and to do a 5/8 inch seam allowance all the way down. So that's what we're going to do. We've got it pinned. You could also do a basting stitch, which is just a really long, simple stitch if you want to do that. For me personally, my machine really doesn't have a stitch long enough to do just a basting stitch. So I like to pin it. You could also clip it if you wanted to, but this is what we're going to do. So we're going to start 5/8 inch seam allowance from up here. We're going to go all the way down the pants leg. We're going to start off with a back stitch and then end with a back stitch down here. But other than that, it's just a straight stitch. All right, and there we have it. The black thread is going to make it a whole lot harder to see the thread whenever these are right side out. But there it is. Ended up doing a slightly bigger seam allowance than what they said because I honestly couldn't see the line. So now we're going to pull the threads out. We're going to do the exact same thing on the other one. We're going to pin the other one. We're going to sew it, and then we're going to start actually putting them together. Okay, so we have both of the pants legs sewn, or both halves sewn together. So what we got to do now, there's a pin I missed, finger found it. So what we got to do now is we got to lay the seam open, press it flat, and then we're going to turn one of these to where the right side is showing, and we're going to put the two together, and then we're going to sew that. So first things first, I'm going to press this seam open, if I can even get it open with my hand, on both pants legs. There we go. So we'll press that flat, both pants legs, put them on the side of the other, and then we're going to move on from there. Seam is pressed flat. Now the instructions say to turn one of these to where the right side is out. So remember, wrong side, right side. So since I have this one, we're going to flip this one inside out. I'm so excited about these pants, y'all. Okay. We've got that. So we're going to take this, and you're going to line the seams up together. So this is going to go in here like this. Find your seam. So there's that seam right there. There's that seam. There's that seam. And we're going to line those up. There we go. Boom. All right, now once this is done and you've got all that lined up all the way up the top, then you're going to stitch this part. So you're going to stitch all the way around so you can join your two halves. This is probably another time where it would be handy if you went ahead and pinned it together, because again, I find that whenever you have these big sections of fabric like this, that they tend to move and shift a little bit. And so by pinning it, and you don't need a lot of pins, just a couple, you know, by pinning it in a couple places, you'll stop it from moving. So that's what we're going to do. This is, again, just a straight stitch. So, and actually this does say to pin it as I'm looking at it. So going to just do a straight stitch here, start off with a straight stitch, back stitch, and then go all the way around and back stitch on the other side. Okay, so I just double checked the instructions because, again, I'm new at this. So this actually does say to stitch it once and then to reinforce it, so stitch over it again. So if your machine can do a double stitch, which mine cannot, but if your machine can do a double stitch, then do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do start off with a back stitch, stitch all the way around, back stitch, and then we're going to do the exact same thing again over that same seam. So here we go. And there we have it. So you can see up here, double stitch, and then we did a straight stitch all the way around, and then we did a back stitch here, and then we went back over everything with another double stitch, another back stitch, and stitched over that line best we could. Kind of got off of it a little bit, but it's first attempt, and I'm honestly pretty happy with how this came out. So let's get these pins out of here and see what we got. All right, y'all, moment of truth. Now, honestly, the instructions are not exactly clear on how to do this part. Again, I'm a big dude. I made pants, y'all. This is too cool. All right, so yeah, I'm actually really happy with this. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to flip them back inside out. We're going to press. The instructions say 1 1/8 at the top, and we're going to sew this all the way around, and then we're going to put the elastic in it. The elastic is going to form the waistband, and then once I have that done, I'm just going to do a hem at the bottom because I think the inseam is going to be just fine. So yeah, so we're going to do a small hem at the bottom with a zigzag stitch to keep this from coming undone. And we're going to call it good. We're going to do all this with it flipped back inside out because kind of the way it looks here, but yeah, I'll show you all the finished product. Okay, so for this one, I've got it all pinned out. I had to go a little off the instructions. The instructions say 1 1/8. Well, my elastic is 1 1/4. So I went a little bit bigger just to make sure that my elastic can get through, but I pinned all the way around using my ruler as a guide. So should be the same all the way around. So now I'm going to go. We're going to do a straight stitch all the way around that way. And so and then you also have to leave space to be able to get your elastic in it. So don't close off your seam wherever you want the front to be. And whenever you're making these yourself, just pick one of the seams to be either your front or your back and have that be where you leave room for the elastic. Start there, in there, that way you don't close it off. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so we've got the whole thing sewn all the way around. And I really should have filmed that part because everything that could go wrong when rethreading a bobbin, because my bobbin thread ran out with about 4 inches left to go on the waist. But anything that could have gone wrong, rethreading the bobbin went wrong. The needle got jammed up, all kinds of thread messed up. Then when I did it again, it got all jacked up again, but it's all good. So yeah, got it done. Waistband done. Got the top and the bottom sewn, again, all the way around. And the only reason why we did that is that way whenever the elastic stretches, so you don't want the elastic to roll because then you'll just be fixing it all the time. And that's just annoying. So whenever you're doing this, I find if you stretch it out as it's going through your machine, then whenever it comes back through, it gives it a chance to expand. If you don't stretch it out whenever you're feeding it through your machine and the elastic stretches, you're going to pop your stitches. So stretch it out as it goes through the machine. Again, I'm a big dude, so but even then, these are probably going to be a little bit big on me. So I've got that done. So now the only thing left to do is measure the inseam, fold over the hem like so, and then stitch and go. Now you can also add elastic to this if you want to make them to where they kind of stick to your leg. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have these be kind of free floating, but that's really all you do is fold it over, measure it, make sure it's right, measure the inseam here, and you're good to go. Straight stitch all the way around. And we're done. Ended up doing a 3.5 inch or 3.25 inch hem. I'm really not that tall. I'm only 6 feet tall. So the extra large pattern, I think, had like almost a 40-inch inseam. But so hemmed those up, and all I did was folded it over, stitched it, measured it all around, straight stitch, back stitch, stitch around, another back stitch to finish it off. And there it is. So let's get these things turned right side out and see the finished product. I'm excited. Boom. There you go. I really dig the fabric. These are perfect spooky season pajama pants. The waist ended up being a little big even for me, but that's something I can work out later if I need to. So yeah, there it is. You could even add pants and stuff if you wanted to, or not pants, but pockets if you want. I didn't do that. I might on the next pair. Honestly, a little intimidated by doing it, but I think I've seen Talk Custom do it with other pants, so I believe I can do it as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. I know I did. They're not perfect. As you can see, it kind of got a little mess up on the back here where the fabric got messed up. But you know what? If you're not willing to get out there and try it, you'll never know if you can do it or not. So I encourage you, try something new, try something different, do something that's intimidating. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Check out the next video. Not 100% sure what I want to make. Let me know what y'all want me to make. I'm thinking about making some hoodies for my kids. I'm going to have to upgrade my sewing machine if I want to do that, because I don't think this one will go through material thick enough to do a hoodie. But drop a comment. Let me know what y'all think I should make. And I think I'm going to do hoodies, maybe a fanny pack. Y'all let me know. Have a great day, and y'all take care.